Hello and welcome to the Outcomes Over Hours show. I'm Tina Patterson and I'm really delighted with the guest that I've got here today who really does embrace the Outcomes Over Hours philosophy. She is Allyson Witherspoon and she is the Global Chief Marketing Officer, CMO at Nissan Global. And she thrives at that intersection between data and creativity. She's held senior leadership roles in marketing around the world across the US, Europe and Asia. She's also won so many awards, the list goes on and on. But ones include being named in the top 100 females in brand marketing, as well as one of the most innovative CMOs. And the reason also, aside from all of this impressive bio that I wanted Allyson on the show, is that she, as I said, she really does embrace this concept, as does Nissan, around outcomes over hours, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. So, Allyson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about this discussion.
Fantastic. Well, I'd love to just start off. If you could just share your own leadership journey and how your own leadership style has changed throughout your time so far.
Yeah. So I think it's been quite a journey. I started consulting all in automotive. So I started consulting and then I was agency side. And I would say I became a leader really quickly. I think before I even really knew what that meant, I think I almost became a people leader almost immediately. And I think I didn't have any tools. It was intuition. It was a lot of trial and error. And I think it was a lot of trying to lead from the front. And I was an ambitious go-getter. I was curious and hungry, very passionate. And I think I managed through that type of energy, but I really didn't spend a lot of time thinking about how to be a people leader. And as I kind of progressed throughout my career, and then I moved brand side and became the director of marketing for the Infiniti brand. I had left my consulting and agency life and became director of marketing for Infiniti. That's when I really started to focus much more on leadership, how to be a manager. And then I've taken assignments. I've been in Europe and Amsterdam. I've also been in Japan. I'm in Japan right now, and I've been here for a year. And I think all of those experiences have really transformed who I am, the type of leader that I am. And I would say, especially over the last, probably since my first assignment in Japan, which was in 2017 through 2018 until now, it's really transformed a lot. I think one, moving to a foreign country where there's language barriers, cultural barriers, it really repositioned my thinking about how to lead. And how do you lead when you have those things? You can't use the normal tools that you have. Communication becomes so important, providing very clear direction, getting teams, on board and aligned and feeling like they're a part of problem solving or solutions. I really started to work on that when I was in Japan the first time. I went back to the US, and in that time, all that communication training that I had done in Japan, it really helped me as I came back into a larger role in the US. It helped me to get the teams on board, to really operate as a team. Then COVID hit. and then it was really about, how do I connect and motivate and provide a safe space for my team in this environment that none of us have ever experienced before. There is no rule book. There's no rule book for business and how to operate. There's no rule book about how to behave up as a brand and how to be the right type of brand in these situations. And then there's also the personal side of it. So we are all afraid. We don't know if we can go outside. We don't know if we can get groceries. And then there's just the physical safety. And all of these happening all at the same time, it was another kind of transformative period for me of thinking about, like, I have to be a different type of leader. I can't just keep doing things the way that I was doing it before, and maybe that was okay. I have to be a very different type of leader here. And I would say over that period, it's being much more vulnerable, which is really hard, especially if you're in a senior leadership position. How do you connect with people? How do you connect with people over screens where you don't have the in-person meetings and things like that? But how do you still motivate? How do you still inspire? How do you still provide good direction? And so I've been working on that a lot. And so I would say I started out as just an instinctive. I like to be a leader. That's how I started when I when I was right out of university.
I can so
And then
relate.
right,
Yeah.
and then it was, how do I be a really effective leader?
Mm.
And now it's, how do I empower my team?
Oh,
How do I empower them to be great leaders? And that's kind of, I just put that together. I hadn't really thought about that before, but
yeah.
that's really been the progression of it. And it's, how do you do that through catastrophic events? How do you do that through, natural disasters and pandemics? And how do you do that through loss and personal changes and professional changes? How do you do that through crisis? And I think all of those things have really, I think one, it's led me to believe that there is no such thing as a perfect leader. We're all a work in progress.
I use that
And much,
phrase all
right?
the time. Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
and it allows us to kind of take the pressure off of having to be perfect. Um, and then it becomes much more about, how do you empower the teams to deliver greatness, and what do they need?
Oh, I love that so much. And I love your distinction also there, where it sounds like it also goes from the focus on me, I'm the leader, to hang on, it's about the team. How do I
Yeah.
empower them? What role do I play to actually help them so they can be as effective as possible? And by doing that, I'll actually be more effective as a leader as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing, because sometimes people ask me, what's something that you wish you would have told, you wish your younger self would have known? And I think the biggest thing is that technical skill is important. It is important.
Yep.
But actually, what helps you progress in your career is your ability to lead teams. And
Yeah.
how do you empower and lead your teams to be great? And I wish that I would have known that earlier, and I probably could have overcome some of the challenges that I had when I was younger. But it's such an important thing. It's when you realize that it's not about you, that there's a bigger purpose, and it's about, the teams and or the company that you work for, things like that. It's a huge game changer, huge game changer.
Completely. That's so inspiring, Allyson. And on a similar vein, and we were talking before we started recording around, things have changed a lot also. And so if you think about where we are now versus the type of leaders that both you and I had growing up, and how leaders were perceived, and it was all about presenteeism in the office, etc. If you think about leaders today, what are the 2 to 3 skills that you think that leaders should really focus on and amplify so that they can be truly effective leaders who their teams are inspired to work for over the coming decades?
I think the biggest thing is, how do you create focus? How do you enable focus for your teams? It's, we're all inundated with hundreds of priorities. How do you create that focus for them? How do you create a two-way street? So how is it, it's not just, how do you create, people be able to provide the ability to respond back and to provide feedback. And that's important from a brand and a marketing standpoint, because we need to have two-way communication with our consumers. We need to be hearing that feedback. And I think it's important to establish that internally first. And then the last one, and it sounds kind of cliche, but it's listening. It's actually
Yeah.
just really thinking about listening. What are they trying to tell you? Not trying to respond, not trying to defend something, not trying to kind of get the word quota in, but to really listen to what people are saying. And it's difficult to do, but I think as a leader, it becomes, I would say the most important trait to be a leader is to listen, and really truly listen.
Oh, I love that so much. And it is such an important skill, isn't it, to then be able to be really, really effective. So I know that being effective is a big area that you focus on. And as you know, Outcomes Over Hours is all about how do you be effective, efficient, and energetic through looking after yourself. So I'd love to hear, what's the most practical advice you've been given that you've acted on to work smarter and in this different way of working?
There are two. The first one is, when I went back to the US to take on the US Chief Marketing Officer job for Nissan, someone gave me advice at the time that to pick three things, three priorities, and be unrelenting about them. And, you know, and really kind of establishing there will be so many things that will come at you. Everyone's going to want your time. Everyone's going to have their agenda of what they want you to do. And what you need to be focused on is to be focused on these three priorities. How do you get your teams aligned to that? How do you get the organization aligned to that? And be unrelenting. And that's what you put your energy into. And and I think it for me, what really helped is that it became that filter. It was, the hundreds of emails, suddenly it was like, okay, that one I can delegate. This one, I don't even know. I don't even need to respond to. Sometimes not answering is an answer. And and it took a long time to have to move from the person that thought, I have to be responsive. I have to, make sure that everyone understands I'm reading all the emails. And sometimes actually you don't. Sometimes it doesn't fit into those priorities, and that's okay. If it's not a priority, it's not a priority. And I think it took a lot of discipline. It took a lot of, kind of, eliminating some of the people pleasing that I think, we tend to do sometimes, especially for women. Yeah. And it really kind of, these are the things that are really going to move our brand and our business forward. And all of my energy needs to be spent on this. I have an amazing team. If there's anything else that comes through, they can be able to handle it. And, and we can just keep focusing on the things that matter. And so I think that's been really important, advice that I received. And I try to, when I came back to Japan a year ago, it was, here are the three priorities, and these are the things that we're going to be focused on. And, kind of the other things, you'll get to them. It's going to be on a different timeline than maybe what other people want, but that's okay. These are the three priorities.
I love that so much. I'm here smiling, Allyson, because you can't see it, but just up here on the wall, I put each month the monthly view of, what it is. And the first, literally up the top, it's got 1, 2, and 3 in circles, and there are three things. That's it. Yeah. And I think it's so important also from a communication standpoint. And I often say to executives, your people can't remember more than 3. Also, if you want them to cascade the messages, don't give them 12. They're not going to remember them. Most people can remember 3. And so, yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think that message also around giving yourself permission around how you deal with your inbox, and that it's up to you to be able to go, hang on, how does it serve me, to be able to then focus on the things that matter and to reduce the noise on all the others. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And I think it's even in times like, and I struggled for the earliest, the early part of my career, really struggled with burnout. I think, and we were sharing stories before this, and I got to the point where I finally started to really take vacation. And it was like this, at first it was this badge of honor. Oh, I never took a day off, and, look at me. And meanwhile, I was burnt. I wasn't thinking creatively. I wasn't the best person for my team. I wasn't the best person for myself. My personal life was in shambles. And I remember I started to take vacation, and I started to understand what that meant, and managing my inbox. And I would tell my team, I'm out. You all are in charge. If something is absolutely exploding, and you know what the things are that will explode, text me. Other than that, you're not going to hear from me, and you all are in charge. And what it really taught me is, it taught me, one, they loved it. They loved feeling empowered. They loved kind of making decisions. I was able to get my time off, and I was able to recharge and come back, fresh. And it did it. And it meant that, of course, I was checking in. I was making sure that, things weren't, so it wasn't just a horrible reentry of thousands of emails, but it really made me see, I don't need to chime in, because the second that I respond, the person on the other side of that email is going to feel like they have to respond back to me. And then it was, well, she's answering email, then everybody emails. And that I created that. I created that situation. And it made me realize, we have this in our control. We have amazing people that are around us to help support us. And it also demonstrated to them that they can do the same thing. and I'll cover for the team, or their peers will cover for them. And the expectation is that we take care of ourselves. And I think as leaders, we have to show that. We have to demonstrate that, because I think the teams won't believe it if we don't do it ourselves.
So true. When I start working with some leaders, when they say to me, "Oh, no, but I tell my team they can take their leave whenever they want." And I say, there is a very big difference between telling them and showing them. You can tell them all you like, but until you show them that it's okay, they don't necessarily feel they have the permission. So I love that role modeling and that they see that. The other thing that I think is so important is that it's an opportunity for your team to step up, for them to go to the meetings with the people who are often a level above them. And so it's such a great development opportunity that if you don't take leave and do it, you're actually denying some of the superstars in your team a really fantastic development opportunity, and showing, you mentioned trust and empowering them, but it's such a great way to do it.
Yeah, and they loved it. They thought it was great. And the thing is, it gave them that visibility. I wasn't intimidated by it. I wasn't threatened that they were having those meetings. I was cheering them on from the beach, and that's fine. And and I think I think sometimes it's you. I would, sometimes people ask me, I just say, like, try that. Even to my team, try it with your teams.
Yeah.
Just say you're in charge and watch what happens, because people rise up to the occasion, and they want to feel empowered. They want to feel like they're there to support.
Yeah, 100%. That's so powerful. I'd love to switch gears now, Allyson, and ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you up for it?
Sure. I'm up for it.
Excellent. So what is the best thing that you've bought in the last few years under about $100?
Okay. I would say this has been recent, but I recently bought, I guess, membership to audiobooks.
Oh.
And audiobooks has been a game changer, because I'm a runner, so I can listen to it. I'm in the car, and it's been, sometimes it's hard to, when I'm in my, trying to kind of unwind for the evening, like get the book, meditate, like do the face mask. Like, it's hard to do all those things. And
You
so the
combine.
audiobook, yes. So that's been my favorite thing.
Oh, I love that. And what is the book that you've either recommended or gifted the most to other people?
I think the one that I've gifted the most is "Oh, the Places You'll Go," which is it's a classic. But if you go back in and reread it, first of all, it brings you back to when you were a child, but you realize that how important those lessons are still today. And then I think the most recent one is it's called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I think it's the Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. I send it to anyone that is kind of like interested in creative fields, or just how to ideate, create ideas. It's been really enlightening and just completely inspirational.
Fantastic. So Dr. Zeus and The Creative Act, fabulous. And to finish up, Allyson, I'd love to hear, and particularly knowing, what you've achieved and accomplished, but also Nissan's view around outcomes over hours. What does outcomes over hours actually practically mean to you?
To me, I think it's focusing on what you want that end result to be, instead of the process around it, the milestones. It's what are you really working towards, and how do you operationalize, how do you organize yourselves in the way that's going to get that best result? And I think for us, it's, we're always thinking about how can we deliver the best experience for our consumers? And if if processes don't deliver that, then how do we change the processes? And then I think when it comes to how do we also create an environment and a culture that enables that and that empowers that. And so there's a lot of work that we're doing internally on how do we drive a strong corporate culture? How do we all take part in that? Because we're all a part of building that corporate culture. But really, the focus needs to be on how do we deliver the best experience with our products and our services and our technologies. How do we deliver that for the consumer? And so our outputs or our outcomes are always about what can we deliver for the consumer.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Well, Allyson Witherspoon, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Outcomes Over Hours show.
Thank you very much.